I just saw a giant bass flash on this. Oh, right there. There he is. Well, hello there and welcome to the channel, everyone. Today we're looking for smallmouth bass in Georgia. I'm actually trying to find and catch a native smallmouth bass, so we're fishing part of the Tennessee River drainage in North Georgia. The Tennessee River drainage is part of the Mississippi River Basin, which is the world's 4th largest drainage basin. And you only have 3 native species of black bass in the Mississippi Basin: the smallmouth bass, the spotted bass, and the largemouth bass. You also have 2 non-native species: the red-eye bass, which is native only to the Coosa River drainage, and the Alabama bass, which is native to the Mobile River Basin. In most areas where you find these non-native species, you no longer have catchable populations of native smallmouth and spotted bass. At one time, we had 3 different river systems in Georgia with native smallmouth bass: the Hiwassee River, the Notley River, and the Toccoa River. But non-native Alabama bass were illegally introduced by anglers to man-made impoundments in each of these river systems: Lake Chatuge on the Hiwassee River, Lake Notley on the Notley River, and Blue Ridge Lake on the Toccoa River. These illegal introductions started over 30 years ago, and today Alabama bass have colonized all streams flowing into and out of these impoundments, so you no longer have catchable populations of native smallmouth and spotted bass. Not only that, but the Alabama bass spread downstream into North Carolina and Tennessee via the Hiwassee and Ocoee River systems. And these fish are causing all of the same problems there they have in Georgia. They've completely taken over several smaller impoundments in North Carolina and Tennessee, and they've made it as far as Lake Chickamauga in the Hiwassee drainage. And non-native Alabama bass aren't just taking over the impoundments and the river, they also colonize the creeks that flow into these systems unless some kind of barrier like a dam or waterfall stops them from moving upstream. Now, some people might be tempted to move smallmouth bass at this point into some other drainage. Please don't do that. We have too many unique fisheries that you're just going to ruin, and you're just going to cause all of the same problems somewhere else. We have warrior bass endemic to the Black Warrior drainage, Cahaba bass endemic to the Cahaba drainage, red-eye bass native to the Coosa drainage, and Tallapoosa bass endemic to the Tallapoosa drainage. In the Chattahoochee drainage, you have shoal bass and Chattahoochee bass. We also have Altamaha bass endemic to the Altamaha drainage, and Bartram's bass native to the Savannah drainage. So please don't try to move smallmouth bass. Now folks, this might not appear to be a special fish, but it's a spotted bass, and we are in Georgia, and real spotted bass are kind of rare because people have moved fish around so much. I was hoping that this fish's the water today here is kind of stained. We've kind of had some thunderstorm activity in the afternoon and evening, and this stream is stained, but this is a real spotted bass, not an Alabama bass. And I was hoping the markings would be more distinct so I could show some of the traits that are unique to spotted bass that Alabama bass do not have. Let's see. One thing you might be able to see is the mid-lateral stripe here on a spotted bass typically will coalesce into a solid stripe, whereas on an Alabama bass you'll have broken blotches, and there you can see it's kind of a solid stripe right there. And spotted bass do have more of a football shape compared to most Alabama bass, but this is kind of a small one. You know, they get up to about 3 pounds. Native spotted bass, extremely rare in Georgia, actually. Well, there's a chunky largemouth on the old black and blue flipping tube. I caught that fish, caught that spotted bass off the same log, and then I just caught that largemouth right there. Native largemouth. Now we just need the smallmouth and we'll have the Georgia-Tennessee drainage slam. See ya. After I sent that message to my brain, the fish just really crushed the bait big time, so just got another bite right there, the same almost kind of identical bite right off that water willow. Oh, you're swimming out with it. And look who it is. Mr. Rock Bass. I'm sure you all have seen other YouTube anglers catch this fish if you haven't seen one by now. A lot of people call this a red-eye bass, and you can see why, but it is not a red-eye bass. It's not even a member of the Micropterus genus, and I really do not like it when people call this fish a red-eye bass. You can see we're in the Tennessee drainage. This is a rock bass, member of the Amblopletus genus. It has this individual has 5 anal fin spines, so you know it's not a member of Lepomis, so it's not a sunfish. It is in the sunfish family, but it's not considered a true sunfish like the bluegill or the redbreast sunfishes. But anyway, you've seen me catch the shadow bass on this channel from the Coosa drainage and maybe another part of the Mobile Basin, but this is, I think, the first rock bass we've caught on this channel. I'll get a shot of the old release here. The old rock bass. See ya. That's another hog rock bass. Boy, look at this sucker, y'all. Almost be tempted to put him on the board. You can eat rock bass, by the way. They taste very good. Really all members of the sunfish family you can eat, and they taste very good. Let's see him. Check that dude out. It's a nice rock bass. People up in Tennessee are probably going to laugh, but we don't have too many big rock bass, or I don't catch too many big ones. Yeah, that one's 10 inches with the mouth open. They get over 12 inches in some areas. I think they've got to be 11 inches to be a trophy in Tennessee. They've got an angler recognition program. They have to be, an 11 incher is a trophy, or considered a trophy, I believe. Okay, I do not know what happened there, but I just flipped my tube into this pocket right here into that root wad. You see this, there's some foam right there, and then under the roots there, you can kind of see there's a back eddy where the foam is circulating. Anyway, I flipped my tube in there and I just caught a really, really nice spotted bass. For some reason my camera was not on, and that kills me. But we can check out the markings on this spotted bass. They're a little more distinct than they were on the first fish. Spotted bass typically have 12 or 13 blotches. And people ask me all the time, you know, how do you distinguish a spotted bass from an Alabama bass? And spotted bass are more closely related to smallmouth, so they have kind of a more football-shaped body. But here I'm going to try to count these mid-lateral blotches here on the mid-lateral stripe. We've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then the mid-lateral blotches kind of coalesce here into a solid stripe. I don't know if you can see that, but they're no longer, whereas on an Alabama bass, you know, the fish from Lake Lanier, for example, if you look at the fish, sorry bud, let me give him some oxygen while I run my mouth. The Alabama bass, if you Google spotted bass Lake Lanier, those are Alabama bass. There are no spotted bass in Lake Lanier. They're all Alabama bass, and those fish were introduced illegally, but they've been there so long most people don't even know that. But anyway, if you look at fish from Lake Lanier, the fish people call spotted bass, which are actually Alabama bass, if you look at the tail, the blotches do not coalesce into a solid stripe. Typically, they do not. Also, if you look at any, you know, Alabama bass are native to the Mobile Basin. So, if you look at any fish from Lake Weiss, Carter's Lake, Neely Henry, Logan Martin, Lay Lake, Jordan, Mitchell, Lewis Smith, the Alabama River, you know, down near Wetumpka, those are all Alabama bass. So if you Google, you know, check out Google images of those fish, their tail should not coalesce into a solid stripe, the markings, you know, and they're going to have 15. Alabama bass typically have 15 or more blotches along the mid-lateral stripe there. I'm going to get this guy back in the water. Again, this is a true spotted bass. You know, these are probably almost as rare as the smallmouth in Georgia. Again, because people have moved non-native species around. That is a beautiful fish. See you, buddy. Lots of bait, but apparently no bass, or at least on this end. I may get to the top end of this pool and find a few. That's kind of what I'm hoping. I did see a couple shiners jump up there around that piece of wood that's sticking up out of the water. I had a little bite right there. It felt like a rock bass. There's a fish on the wacky rig. Not a smallmouth. Looks like a spotted bass. It is. Another chunkster. Native spotted bass. One of the few places in Georgia actually where you can. Okay, I caught this fish and my battery died, so I wanted to make sure I showed it to you guys, that you did see it, and that I got the release, or a release. But the markings on this one are a little more distinct. And again, this there should not be any red-eye bass in this part of the this particular stream. There's a barrier downstream, a dam that they should not be above. Of course, we all know that sometimes doesn't mean a whole lot, but this should be a real spotted bass. Even though he's got that crescent on the back of the eye, I think these are all the fish I've caught so far appear to be spotted bass. See you, buddy. You know, without getting out on the bank and bushwhacking, which I'm not a fan of, you know, ticks, chiggers, poison ivy, and not to mention you're trespassing on people's land. Wow, what have I got now? This is a pretty good fish. I hope it stays on. I don't think it's a smallmouth. He just shot the kayak on me. No, it's just, I think he's just hooked outside the head. It's a spotted bass. Or is it? It's hooked on the, or is the line just wrapped? Is that a largemouth? What are you? That's a spotted bass, people. And he was not hooked outside. He was hooked in the line was just wrapped because he went nuts on me. Wow, this is the biggest spotted bass I've ever caught in Georgia. That's fun. People that are watching this that fish Lanier will be like, oh, what a loser. But those aren't spotted bass in Lake Lanier. Those are non-native Alabama bass. Boy, this is really spotted bass for people that don't know. In 1940, the spotted bass was described in 1940 by two guys from the University of Michigan. And they described two subspecies for people that don't know. they described two subspecies. One was the Alabama spotted bass, and the other was the northern spotted bass, which some people call the Kentucky spotted bass. So from 1940 to 2008, there were two subspecies of spotted bass. Okay, he's gonna go nuts. Wow, that fish is 14 and a half inches with the mouth closed almost. Yeah, that is beautiful. I'm almost as excited about that fish as I am the smallmouth, or potential smallmouth. But anyway, as I was saying, the spotted bass was described in 1940, right? There were two subspecies from 1940 to 2008. And in 2008, they split the spotted bass. My kayak's floating away. In 2008, some biologists at Auburn, or mostly at Auburn, some biologists in 2008 split the spotted bass into two species. They elevated the subspecies to full species. So the spotted bass, which I have here, is native only to the Mississippi Basin. And we're in the Tennessee Basin, or river drainage, which is part of the Mississippi Basin. And that's a beautiful, beautiful spotted bass right there. So the northern subspecies became the spotted bass, and the Alabama subspecies became the Alabama bass. And they were also sometimes called the Coosa spotted bass. Let's see if there's one ready to ambush something in this calm pocket here. Lousy cast. Oh my gosh. I just saw a giant bass flash on this. It was not a smallmouth, I don't believe. It looked like a spotted bass or a largemouth. came out from that trash pile right there. There he is. Oh, I can't. Don't come off. Did he come off? No, it's a good spot. Look at that spotted bass. That's why you use the flipping rig in the creeks. Oh man. Look at that pig. Wow. That is a beautiful spotted bass right there. So many of the ones in the middle Chattahoochee are hybrids, so this could very well be the biggest one I've caught in Georgia. Again, when I caught that, I caught one that was 14.5 inches before, but when I looked down, my camera was not recording, so I don't know if I got that fish, but I'm glad I got this one. I caught that other one on a wacky rig. I caught this one flipping. Check that one out, folks. How's that? That is an awesome fish right there. And again, for people that may not know, the spotted bass is only native to the Mississippi Basin. And the Tennessee River system, of course, is part of the Mississippi River Basin. And so this is a spotted bass. And it's one of the few places in Georgia where non-native species have not been introduced. So we still have spotted bass and smallmouth bass. Both are native to the Mississippi Basin. The three black bass native to the Mississippi Basin are the smallmouth, the spotted bass, and the largemouth. Those are the only three black bass native to the Mississippi River Basin. Boy, this is kind of looking smallmouthy here. Another spotted bass. Right near that log. See you, buddy. Good night.